Alright folks, welcome back to Duty's Daggers, and I forgot to take a sip of my seltzer before I started, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Delicious. Welcome back to Duty's Daggers. Went down the wrong tube a little bit. We got a knife overview, first impressions kind of deal. Fintiso knives. I had never heard of these guys before. They reached out to me, asked me if I wanted to look at a knife, and I chose this one. I believe it's called the Cobra series. I'm going to tell you about it. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Look down there, make sure you are. And go ahead and like the video, too, while you're over there. I'll wait for you while you go like the video, so go do that right now. Alright, thanks. So, this knife reminded me of another knife that I like a lot, and we'll bring that out and talk about that later. But first, let's talk about this one. So, pretty average size. We got a little over 3-inch blade. We got a 4 1/4 inch handle. That makes just under 7.5 inches overall. I think that's a pretty good size. The handle is really comfortable. Kind of thin here and swells up back here where it kind of sits in the meat of your palm. So, feels good. Pretty cool blade shape. I like this kind of like deeper belly here with the tip pointing down. It's really good for cutting. Pretty thin behind the edge, full flat grind. Pretty thin blade stock too. I think this will be a pretty good slicer. 14C 28M blade steel and G10 handles. This knife is right around $55, I believe. I think that's a damn good price for what we're getting here. Hardware has been anodized blue, and we have a bent pocket clip that I think looks like it'll work pretty well. G10 backspacer as well. Now, it is a button lock. So we got that. We got the F for Fintiso on the pivot. I don't think that's too obtrusive. I think that's cool with me, you know. It also says Fintiso there on the ting of the blade. I think they could have took that off probably and just had the F on the pivot. That might have looked a little better, but it's not bad. We got a lanyard hole. Let's talk about the action. The button itself sits a little far off the surface of the G10. Usually on my button locks, I like them to be a little more flush. We can compare that to some other button locks. If we look at the Malibu here, you can see how much more this Fintiso knife has that button popping out. What's another one? What's this one called? The Mantanto. See how much that button sticks out. Not very much. So yeah, I usually like my buttons to be a little more flush. It just feels nicer in the hand. And there's less travel. You have to push this button to disengage the blade. You place your thumb on the surface there. You start pushing. It's traveling. Bam! Now it unlocks. On some of these other ones, place your thumb on the button. Travel. It's already unlocked. It's already unlocked. It's kind of nicer to have that button a little more flush. How's the detent? Now this is a plunge lock button lock, which traditionally don't have the best detents. There are some exceptions. And this one is okay. It's, as far as plunge lock button locks go, it's not the worst I've seen. It's not the best either. The flipper tab, I can really easily feel. The opening hole is better, for sure. The reverse flick on this is actually pretty good. Yeah, it feels good on this one. So flipper tab, little mushy, hole, not bad at all. When you push the button, the blade is very nice and free swinging, you know. Doesn't feel like we're gritting and griming around in there, if that makes any sense. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. That's the elephant in the room. This is very similar to the Vosteed Nightshade. And I want to kind of talk about the the ethics behind this kind of thing. And I don't have really strong feelings either way, but I want to talk and kind of get a discussion going because I think it's an interesting topic. We have this knife that came out first, before this knife. And this knife, the Fintiso, is obviously heavily inspired by the Nightshade. It's not exactly the Nightshade. It's a little bit of a different blade shape. The handle's a little different. It's a button lock instead of a liner lock. The flipper tab shape's a little different. But obviously it's heavily inspired by it. I think maybe if it had a different shaped hole, you could argue that it was just chance. But since these holes are almost the exact same shape, and it's not a very common shape, it's obvious that the makers of this Fintiso were heavily inspired by the Nightshade. I think that's safe to say. Now, if you disagree with that, let me know in the comments. I want to have a discussion about this in the comments. Is that okay? Is the question, right? I just noticed they both have the lanyard hole and the hardware on either side of it. So the back of this part of the knife looks very similar. Also, the pocket grips are different. Is it okay? Is it okay for Fintiso to make this knife while the Nightshade exists? First. I think it is, but it is a gray area. It's not a clone. Clones are bad. I do not support clones. If this was an exact copy of the Nightshade, that would be a different story. But it's not. So, is it maybe a little shady, possibly, them making basically a Nightshade but a button lock, thinking that maybe there's a hole in the market of people that like the Nightshade but wish it was a button lock. You know what I mean? Maybe they're thinking those people exist out there and this would fulfill that need. If I was going to design a knife, I would want to make sure that it didn't look like any other knives. For me. And I think if you were making a knife, designing a knife, for the love of knives, not for financial gain, you would want to make a knife that was uniquely yours. In some cases, not all cases, but I feel like in some of these cases where knives look very similar to other knives, financial gain might be at the forefront of these designers' minds when they're doing this. Right? I mean, I could be wrong. And I don't know for sure. That's just a guess. And I'm not saying Fintiso or those guys are bad guys or anything. I like the knife. It's not a clone, so it's, there's nothing wrong with it per se. But I mean, it's like, it's already done. So do something new, right? So I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments. Is it cool? Is it not cool? Let me know. Yeah, I'm really curious what you guys think. I could be totally off base with this, so let me know. Now, all that being said, I think this is going to be a good cutter. I think it's a great price. The detent and action is pretty decent. The button lock action is pretty good. Now, the one thing we didn't do is spine whack it, which we probably should do. Plunge locks are pretty apt to fail. Yeah, that's solid. Nice. Good job. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's have a discussion. And I'll catch you next time. Like the video before you leave. Thank you.